Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Slaying Sober, where we tell stories of addiction, recovery, and hope. Wherever you are on your sober journey, know that you do not stand alone. When Chrissoula first went to rehab, they'd walk along the beach each morning to move their bodies and clear their heads. At the start, she was struggling with the exercise. That's because she was coming off a 20-year heroin addiction and had survived multiple overdoses. But she quickly realised that simply moving her body made her feel human again. After muddling her way through the rehab's tiny basic gym, something sparked inside her. What she didn't see coming was how strength training would give her not just muscles, but the kind of inner strength that she'd never felt before. That was the beginning of healing a body she'd abused for 2 decades, and the start of her walking away from a life of prison and parole and into a career in personal training. Today, Chrissoula is a leader in empowering women to move their own bodies, smash through limiting beliefs, and build a strong, sober life of their own. I hope you enjoy this very inspiring conversation with Chrissoula. If this story lands for you, it would mean the world for me if you could follow Slaying Sober, hit subscribe, or share this episode on your social media or with someone who needs it. I am at Slaying Sober Pod on Instagram. That simple act helps these stories reach more people who think that they're alone. Thank you. A trigger warning: on Slaying Sober, we talk honestly about drug use, suicide, and the chaos that comes along with addiction, as well as recovery and hope. Please only listen if you feel it's safe to do so. Take care of yourself. Hi, Chrissoula. Thank you so much for joining me again on Slaying Sober.
Hi, James. Thank you for having me back again.
It's an absolute pleasure. Having a bit of a laugh about some technical difficulties last week, so I'm even more truly grateful for you coming back.
No, I appreciate you having me on here.
So I've ran into you online and you're looking fit, fabulous and fun in your fitness and wellness era, but it wasn't
Thank you.
always like that for you.
No, it definitely wasn't always like that for me. I was a completely different person for most of my life.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into some of that, but tell us what you do for a career now.
So I'm a personal trainer and an online coach. I help women and men, but mostly women, with their nutrition and training to help them be in the best physical shape of their life and achieve, whether it's fat loss, building muscle, or just to create some consistency in habits and have a better, healthier life. And my niche or my passion right now is helping women late 30s, 40s onwards, to make sure they're building robust, strong bodies that are going to carry them into later life. Because if we're not strength training and we're not eating enough protein and moving our bodies, you are just going to steadily decline year after year. So that's my passion, and that's what I do.
Yeah. Good on you. And I think
Yeah,
it's really important as well for men and women that you want to be able to pick your grandkids up and
absolutely.
get down to them on the floor and
Yeah. And holidays, right? Like when you retire, you want to be able to holiday. So you want to be able to swim, put your luggage in the overhead. You want to be able to walk lots because you're probably going to be exploring other countries. And, you don't want your dodgy knees, your dodgy hip, or your dodgy ankles to hold you back, right?
all the functional things.
Mm,
And what about the upstairs part of training the physical body, the connection between physical
mm,
health and well-being and mental health?
mm. Goes hand in hand, really. It really does. Like, And I know personally from someone that sat around, did nothing, was never physical in my life, and I had a lot of other issues going on, but just that depression that goes with that, with the sitting, with the being in your head. And I see that now with clients, people that don't move their bodies and don't do something physical with their bodies. Not like they're all going to be depressed, but depression and anxiety go hand in hand with not moving your body and not training and not getting outside in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been clean and sober for now, Chrissoula?
Well, it's 10.5 years now, I think. Yeah, it was
Wow.
10 years last August. Yeah, in 3 months it'll be 11 years.
11 years? Wow,
It's crazy.
congratulations.
Thank you. It's
Amazing. Did
crazy.
you ever
Yeah,
think that your life would be where it's at now?
absolutely not. Absolutely
Mm,
not. Like, one of the reasons I never got clean, or one of the limiting beliefs that I had, and one of the things I used to tell myself was why I was never gonna get clean or never bother to try and get clean, was because life would be so boring. Literally,
yeah,
I thought life without drugs and alcohol would be incredibly boring, like, there'd be nothing to do. What would be the point of life? And I'm not even exaggerating. That is what I used to think. So
yeah.
no, when I got clean, my first year, and I celebrated 1 year, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd make it to 10, let alone 5. And never did I think I would have had the experiences that I've had and be the person that I am now. Never.
Amazing.
Mm.
Let's start from little Chrissoula. Where did you grow
Mm.
up and what was life like as a child for you?
I grew up in the country, about an hour and a half away from Perth City. Um, Life was very lonely for me. I didn't have brothers or sisters, and my dad left us when I was like 5 or 6, and my mum uh, was the sole proprietor and runner of a farm training racehorses. So that
Okay.
consumed, still does consume her life. So I pretty much was, I'd say, brought up myself. Like, I had nobody else there to look after me or mother me or nurture me or guide me, apart from her with her wooden spoons and her whip, when I'd done the wrong
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, no, it was very lonely.
Tell me about your first experiences with drugs and alcohol.
My first experiences, probably when I was in high school down in Perth, when I left the country and come down here to get a better education. And some friends at that school smoked a bit of pot, so we smoked a bit of pot together. Harmless, I thought at the time, but
Mm,
just led me into other things.
yeah. So that usual sort of teenage experimentation with drugs.
Yeah, but like, there are people that can do that, usual
Mm,
experimentation with drugs. I grew up with some of them, and then they just go and live a normal life. Like, they do it on the weekends for 6 months, a year or two, and then they go and live a normal life. Whereas with me, I was just in, and that was it. Like, I
yeah.
did not come out of that. I didn't know any half measures. I was just all in. So,
Do you
and
remember
yeah.
what that first gave you and how you first felt?
Well, if we're talking about heroin, when I first did heroin, it gave me an escape from pain, physical and mental. So it allowed me to escape from the nothing, like the feeling of worthlessness that I had, the feeling that I wasn't loved, nobody really cared for me, I would never amount to anything because I was stupid, I was ugly, I was all those things that I would tell myself. And it gave me an escape from that, and also physical pain, because at the time I had my first smoke of heroin, I was in a lot of physical pain. So it took away everything, and it just made me numb, which was
Mm.
heaven at that time in my life. Like, it was all I wanted.
When you said you were in a lot of physical pain, was there an event that
Mm.
occurred?
Yeah, I'd been in a car accident. I was in a high-speed police chase, driving a stolen car. I think I was about 14 or 15. And I went through a red light and got T-boned by another car, and fractured my pelvis, broke some ribs, and got a big gash across my head, and I still have a scar there.
No. And so you were hospitalized then?
Yeah, I was in the hospital for a week on morphine and pethidine, but as soon as they got me on crutches, they kicked me out with Panadol, and I was just in excruciating pain.
So that led to the first time that you took heroin?
Heroin, yeah. Look, I can't say I wouldn't have got there if that hadn't have happened. I'm sure I would have found my way there. It would have been some other circumstance, some other catalyst, but that was the catalyst that caused me to use heroin for the first time, and that began a 20-year cycle of use and abuse.
Well, so what did life look like for you in your late teens when you were taking heroin?
Ah, it was chaos. It was me running riot, doing what I wanted when I wanted, stealing, dealing drugs to get my next hit. No consequences of my actions. Like I didn't feel like what I didn't care about what I did because I didn't care about the consequences.
Mm.
I was constantly getting pulled in by the police. I was constantly getting charged. I was constantly going to in and out of Rangeview and Longmore, which were our detention centres back then. I don't think they're around anymore, either of those places. And then the Banksia Hill, constantly in and out of detention centres and jails. It was hectic. It was just chaos.
But they're consequences in their own sense. Did you just not give a shit or
No, I went in, did my time, came out, did the same thing again.
kept using?
Like, yeah, yeah, kept using, kept committing crimes. Just a vicious cycle.
As we know, our addiction leads to jails, institutions, and death.
Yeah.
Did it catch up with you from a health perspective?
Well, look, yes, to the fact that I was ODing all the time. I would overdose so many times. There was a period in the probably late 90s or maybe early 2000s that there was some really strong heroin on the streets of Perth, and I was overdosing like several times a week. One time I took an overdose so serious, I took it deliberately. I tried to take my own life. There'd been someone had run through my house and stolen all my drugs, stolen all my gold and my money, and
Oh,
I just thought life was over, right? I was like, that's it. Life's over. I can't live anymore.
mm,
There was obviously a lot of other stuff. I was a lot of depression, a lot of mental health issues at that time as well. So I decided to take my life. So I went and bought a um, quarter ounce of heroin, and I brought it back to my place, and I locked myself in, and I took the overdose. And somehow, a friend of mine who's no longer with us anymore, he came across my house, saw the window broken, and got himself inside and called an ambulance. And they revived me. And because I was not breathing for so long, I had consequences of losing my short-term memory. I was in a hospital. They kept me in a lock ward for a while because I tried to commit suicide. And I would ask everyone the same question. Apparently, I can't remember, but I would ask everyone the same thing. Where am I? Where are my clothes? Where's my gold? Where is my dad? Where is my friends? And everyone was looking at me like really frustrated, like, oh, and I'm like, what? But it was because I was asking the same questions over and over. So that was a consequence there, a pretty serious health consequence, but it didn't stop me at all.
when you came to in hospital and you were in the hospital bed, what was going through your mind?
I couldn't even tell you. I I don't I don't remember well. I remember snapshots of that 20 years of addiction. I remember things that had a high consequence or things that emotionally charged me in some way, but I don't remember what I was feeling. Well, probably, to be honest, knowing myself and knowing myself then, I'd be thinking, when can I get out of here and when can I get my next shot? That
Yeah,
would have been all that I would have been thinking because that's all I cared about then. That was the only thing that gave me any joy, any pleasure, any that was like my god. My god was heroin. It was the only thing I cared about.
yeah, yeah. So what led to you to change and get well?
Uh, I was living a life in my early 30s. I'd been in and out of jail several times. I'd spent several terms in jail, and my last term was 2 years in prison. and I got out and I was on the methadone, which is an opiate medication. It's meant to help people get off heroin. It's really just a opiate substitute, and it keeps you kind of shackled to the chemist that where you're getting it from. So my life was wake up late, feeling like shit, take some pills, some Dexies, go down to the chemist, get my methadone, come home, smoke some pot, drink some alcohol. Usually drink so much alcohol by the evening that I'd pass out or I'd black out drunk. Wake up the next day feeling like absolute shit because I drank so much alcohol. My liver was shot. Spend most of the
Mm.
morning on the toilet. Do it all again every single day. It was like Groundhog Day. And I just
Yep.
got sick of it. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to live. And I would have taken my own life had I not had a daughter that I didn't want to leave with that consequence, with that legacy of her mum doing that.
Yeah.
So
How old was
uh,
your daughter at this stage?
I'm going to say like 8, 8 or 9.
And was she in your custody?
No. She was living with her stepmom and dad. Um, and there was a very tumultuous relationship with myself and her dad and her stepmom.
Yes.
And it was a very it was a very hard few years. I was told for years that Chanel didn't want to come and live with me. She didn't want to see me. I was told all these things, which I found out years later when my daughter came back to me, that were lies and that were fed to her and that were told to her to say to me or to write in a note or to send in a text. She was told to behave this way and say these things. Um, when she really didn't feel them. She loved me and she wanted to see me. And the
Mm.
times that she did see me, that we did have visits, um, it was great. That time we were together, it was like old times. We were like besties again. And very like half an hour or 45 minutes before it was due for her to be picked up, she just changed. She'd go very quiet and sullen and withdrawn. And then when her stepmom would come and pick her up, she'd just like head down and walk out. And I'd say,
Mm.
give me a hug, like bye. And she'd just give me this hug like this with her head turned away. And I found out years later that her stepmom would punish her or would, give her shit if she had been too affectionate to me or, showed that she was having a good time there. Her stepmom would punish her. So she learned to have this behavior to me every time she got picked up. Uh,
I'm
I
sorry that
think
you
you,
both had to go through that.
yeah. Look, it was a, it was a really tough time. It was really fucked. It really was. And for many years there, I I felt like I was caught in a catch-22. Like I wanted to do better and I wanted to have my daughter back, but no matter what I did, no matter how much better I did, the stepmom and her father were just bottleneck. They were like making it extremely hard for me to get that relationship back with my daughter, no matter what I did. So that would cause me, and I'm not saying that anybody else caused me. I always chose to use drugs and act out, but I didn't know any other way to handle my emotions when I thought I'm doing everything right. I was working for a little period, I wasn't doing anything serious, but I thought for me I was doing things right, and I'd maybe put down the needle for a while and was doing better, but nothing would change in my life, and I couldn't see a way out of that circumstance, so I'd always go back and act out more.
Mm. But you said that whilst life felt really difficult and you didn't want to be here, you
Mm.
did have that hope of your daughter. Um, she's kept you alive in some way, shape, or form.
Well, yeah, I just couldn't do that to her. I couldn't leave her with that stigma of her mum killing herself. And if it wasn't for her, I would have done it in a heartbeat. Back in that stage, in when I was in that frame of mind, my life meant absolutely nothing to me. And I tried on 3 different occasions to take my life seriously, like serious attempts. Um, but yeah, no, I wouldn't have done that to her. And that was what eventually caused me to go to rehab. I was just like, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna go. The stepmom actually suggested it to me. Why don't you go to rehab? And, not with any good intentions. She would tell my daughter that, oh, she'll just fail. She won't last. She'll relapse, blah, blah, blah. But 10 years later, here I am. And thriving. So
Hey.
I think that is the best revenge is like, not that I wanted revenge, but, glowing up, being your best self and, achieving things that people never thought you could achieve. That's the best revenge.
So tell me about your rehab journey.
Mm. I went to Ceridian House. I went to the Rockingham um, Centre, and we were really close to the beach. At that time,
Mm.
when I first went, I didn't appreciate it as much as I did by the time I left.
Yeah.
Um, and I was really, really ill. I was really sick when I went in there withdrawing because I was withdrawing off alcohol, severe alcohol addiction, and medication like benzo addiction and like heroin addiction, coming off heroin 3 to 5 days, 5 days if you've got a bad addiction, but it's out of your system. You're good. It's a horrendous 3 to 5 days. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Absolute agony, horrible withdrawals, but it's short. With alcohol and benzo addiction, withdrawing off them can be weeks of
Mm.
pain and suffering and seizures, and which I did have a seizure as well while I was in there. But I just told myself I've got to stay another day. Sometimes I would tell myself you got to stay another hour because I wanted to leave
Mm.
every fucking day. Sometimes multiple times a day, I wanted to leave. And jail was a lot easier because you couldn't leave, right? Rehab, it was only me. I was the only one keeping myself there.
Yeah.
So that was really tough in the beginning. But I just literally did, you know, one day at a time, or
Mm.
sometimes it was 1 hour at a time. And that's what kept me there for 4.5 months.
You mentioned the beach played a part of that.
Mm,
With the walking on the beach and the
mm.
sand in your toes?
Yeah, so we had to go for a walk every morning. It was part of our routine and our structure. We went for a beach walk every single morning. And the first few days I got there, I couldn't even go. I was too sick. And then, when I did go, I could make it halfway because I was still so sick. But eventually I started walking the whole lot. And then eventually I, would run a little bit of it. And then I was like, oh, fuck, this feels good. And then slowly as the weeks progress and the months progress, I would look forward to those morning walks on the beach. Like, fuck, if only now I live close enough to the beach to go for a walk every morning. Fuck, that would be amazing. But yeah, back then I was just like, oh, okay, I actually like this now. This makes me feel good. The sunshine, the sand, the sea, the smells, like it's all healing, right? And I
Mm.
began to realize that and appreciate it after, a few weeks of being there.
Yeah, and what about, gym and physical fitness? When did that sort of come into your life?
So they had this little room at the rehab and it was like one room. I think there was a rowing machine in there, a bench and a lat pull down or something like that, some sort of cable machine. And I would just go in there and mess around with stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, kind of like this feeling, like I can do this thing and then I can get stronger at it, if I keep doing it day after day. And I was like, oh, I like the feeling I get after I've done this. So that was where, and also the other motivating factor for me to go to TAFE and do my fitness certs was when I went into rehab, I put on about 10 kilos, as most people do, because you put down the spoon, pick up the fork, right? You put down your drug and you pick up the fork. It's a saying as you know, in
Yeah.
NA and rehab. And I literally did that, seconds and every night at dinner, always having seconds and just the food became um, that dopamine like rush that you would get. It was for the food. And then, yeah, I didn't want to be like that anymore. And so how can I learn about nutrition? How can I learn about exercise? And found I could leave and go straight to TAFE and do my certificates.
Yeah. Did you put down one addiction and pick up another one, Chrissoula?
Um, Good question. A lot of people would say that in the beginning, but I don't think I did because I think an addiction is something that comes before all other things in your life, right? You're putting that addiction before relationships, before job, before family, and it's to the detriment of your life. I I know, believe, but I know that finding health, finding wellness, finding, exercise, physical exercise and lifting has only fucking heightened my life 100 times and has spread to my friends, to my family, to the people that I surround myself with. And uh I don't put it before other things. Like it's not like I've got to go to the gym. I can't come out to whatever X event. I do still have I have my boundaries, and like I train however many times a week that I train, and like, but I won't like stop going out and socializing with friends because I've got to go to the gym or because of something fitness related.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it sounds like you are putting your recovery first, and this was a tool that you utilized to get
Mm,
well.
yeah, absolutely. I believe strongly that when you're coming out of rehab and you've gotten clean, you need something to replace the addiction with, because the addiction for almost everybody is their entire life, right? It
Yes.
consumes them. For some people, it's a full time job. For me, it was a full time job being an addict. The getting of
Mm,
drugs, the using the drugs, the recovering, it was a full time job. So you've got a hole in your life if you just go to rehab, stop using the drugs, and come out like, what now? Like you have to replace it with something. I don't think that everybody has to replace it with gym, although I do know that it is so good for your mental health and your physical health. And I do think that there should be some kind of physical exercise that all addicts participate in when they come out of
yes.
rehab, but that might be footy, or that might be swimming, it might be hiking, whatever it is. Moving your
Mm,
body in some way, I think, is very important. But I think you do need to replace that using with some other passion in your life, right?
yeah, absolutely. And also, as we learn to get well, um, I find when you have to deal with life on life's terms, your mind often goes to places that you have never known before because you've usually been high or drunk to mask those true feelings.
Yeah.
So if you're deadlifting 160 kilos, then you can't think about much else at that point in
No,
time, can you?
no, no,
Not that you started 160 kilos, but I know that's where
absolutely
you're at
not.
now, isn't it?
Well, that's my goal. I'm almost there. I'm on my way there. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah,
goal. Maybe in
yeah.
about 8 or 10 weeks. But yeah.
I've
Um
got a bit more body weight on you, but 250 is my PB.
Oof.
But
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
I broke my ankle 18 months ago and I've been very, very slow to get back into it. So
Yeah.
I'm making up a lot of excuses and I'm
Yeah.
sitting here looking at my disused Peloton. But you've motivated me a bit there as well, Chrissoula, because
Good.
as you've just said, like you on the beach that like could probably barely stand on your own 2 feet
Yeah, literally.
and look at where you are now, it just shows anyone can do it.
Yeah. And that's what I love about finding health, finding wellness, and just like I hear so many people say that to me, like, and I'm not saying this to give myself a big head, but they'll say, "You've inspired me for whatever reason, for whatever it is to do." And I love that.
Mm,
Like, I was never somebody who'd inspire anybody. So now the fact that I'm able to do that is like blows my mind sometimes, because literally, like, I was the last person anybody thought would get clean. So many people wipe
yeah.
their hands clean of me, family included. They're like, "Don't waste your time. Stop trying to help her. She's gonna fuck you over again and again and again. Um, just wipe your hands." Like nobody
Mm.
thought that I'd make it. And if I can make it after 20 years of my life in drug addiction, anybody can.
Yes, anybody can. That is a
Yeah.
perfect answer there. What else do you do for fun?
Go to the beach. I go out with friends. I love getting out in nature, so I love doing walks around our river, Perth Swan River. Um, I love snorkeling. I love diving. So holidays and adventuring other countries is like amazing to me now, because I never traveled in addiction. I didn't travel. I didn't go out of the country on a plane until I got clean at 33, and that's when I first started my traveling adventures. And now that's what I just want to see the world. There's so many
Yeah.
places I want to see. Learning something else I love to do. I love listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, just learning about other cultures, learning about self betterment. Um, yeah,
All the things that you can do now you're clean. I love travel as well being an answer for that because when you're in addiction, you're so trapped,
yeah,
yet like travel by nature is freedom,
mm,
and boundaries are limitless. You can go
Yeah.
wherever you want.
Yeah, and it's funny because it never even crossed my mind in addiction that I wanted to travel. I never thought, "I wanna go here," or "I wanna go there." Never even thought about it.
Yep. Yeah. And it's that concept as well, like you clean your side of the street
Mm,
and then you can go and explore the suburbs sort of thing and
mm,
beyond.
yeah.
Amazing. So life now is not boring?
Absolutely not. No, I love my life now. I love it, and I am constantly trying to remind myself, because it's so easy when you get working and you get, you have a dealing with family, and it just you get in this, like, roundabout, right? It's like Monday to Friday, it's like kind of not Groundhog Day, but it's like you're just going round and round and round. And I constantly am trying to remind myself to live in the moment, be in the moment, appreciate things, get off my phone so much because
Yes.
it's such a addiction in itself,
Another
right?
addiction. Yeah.
So bad, yeah. And I
Mm.
was actually listening to a podcast about this or about distractions today. But yeah, just trying daily to be as present in the moment and appreciate things, right? Appreciate the being a beautiful day today or being healthy or, um, having a job, being
Yes.
employed, getting to see people that want to see me every day,
Yep.
living in a beautiful country. Like I try and remind myself daily of those things because otherwise it's just easy to kind of get in a rut and just become resentful, right? And you don't even realize it until it's too late. And you're like, fuck, why am I so angry and stressed? And it's like, this person cut me off. And it's like, like, is that the worst thing that could happen to you? Um,
Yeah, it's a great barometer, the state of mind when you're driving and how frustrated you are by other people around you.
right. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And what about within your gym and within your fitness space? You've built a really beautiful community from what I can see.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
I've got a big community of mums, but mainly women,
Yeah.
mostly in their late 30s, 40s onwards, and strong, fucking strong women
Mm,
that are
yeah.
deadlifting their body weight, that are doing pull-ups, that are, you know, doing push-ups, body weight, with weights, benching, just doing phenomenal things. And
Yeah.
I love it. I really love it.
Empowered women.
Yes. Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah. It's so good.
You have you been part of a 12-step fellowship and done the 12 steps?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have. Obviously in rehab, that was a big part of rehab, the going to meetings, NA meetings. And when I got out of rehab, I stayed a part of the NA meetings for about another 2.5 years. And they were
Yep.
vital in those first couple of years when I got out of
Mm,
rehab because, like I was saying before, you take out the addiction. And then what are you going to do? Because when also the addiction, you remove the addiction, you've got to remove the friends, you've got to remove everyone associate. So then if that was all you did, what friends have you got? Maybe some people have got high school friends that didn't use. I didn't have anybody. So I needed to find a whole new group of friends. And in initially the rooms, NA rooms were that was my social life, right? That was my connection with people. And I'd go 3 times a week sometimes. And it was great. It was great for my first couple of years. And then I found it I just didn't really need them anymore. I found my community and my people within the gym, and I built up a really good group of friends
mm.
that some of them are still friends to this day. And yeah, I didn't need to go and talk about my addictions, my past crimes and all that anymore. I felt like I'd done that enough.
Yeah. And look, the reason I asked you is because in your terminology of how you are speaking, you're saying a few of those 12-step things, and it
Mm.
sounds like you're
But
living
they
your
never
life.
you
Yeah.
can those 12-step things they say in there, you can use in life, you can use
Oh,
in. They're
everyone
so
should.
applicable. Yeah, they're so applicable. Yes, but
They
that's where I
really are.
learned them from, yeah.
Yeah. And, like you're saying, getting out in nature, slowing down at times,
Mm,
connecting with community,
yeah,
supporting others,
so powerful.
disconnecting,
Yeah,
all of that, reflecting, all of these sorts of things that help us
yeah.
live a better life.
Because I know people, right, that aren't addicts, but I reckon they live their life like addicts, just without the drugs, right?
Yeah.
Because they are so disconnected, or they're caught up, or they're so disconnected from their feelings, and it's just they're angry all the time, or they're stressed all the time, or they're just like,
Resentment was one of the words you just
resentment.
used, like,
Yes, resentment. Yeah.
in people, places, and things.
Yes, yeah, and I see it all the time in people, and I recognize it, obviously, because we learnt so much about it in rehab and in the rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I have that knowledge now, because, I'm not using anymore, and I don't use drugs, but then occasionally resentment will creep in my life, and I'll be like, "Oh, wait, hold
Mm,
up. No, I know what that feel I know that feeling. Like, we don't need that. Why am I feeling resentful?" Um,
yeah.
let's look at my own actions. What would make me feel like that? And I can do
And
some self-reflection, and
yeah. And what am I grateful for? That was the other
oh,
thing you mentioned, your
100%.
gratitude.
100%. I have fallen off from doing that. I used to write it every day, every morning. And then I found, just because I'm getting up at 3:45, it'd be like, oh, I'd have to get up at 3:40 to do that. And it just kind of fell out of my daily routine. But sometimes I do it in the evening, and I still think it's such a valuable tool.
Yeah, and look, I am a little bit like you. Like, I've been in the program for 2.5 years myself, and sometimes I'll speak with my sponsees and I'll say, if you're feeling all over the place, sit down, write an inventory,
Mm.
write a gratitude list, and then I'll hang up the phone and go, "Oh man, that was fucking good advice. Why aren't I doing that myself?"
Yeah.
Like, it's embarrassing at times, but to be able to be reflective of that, and if am feeling off, to be able to sit
Mm.
down and write it out. I've got the tools there if I
Yep.
feel I need them. And
Yep.
when I come across my greatest challenges, that's when I really lock in and I'm able to touch back on those tools and that knowledge that I've got.
Yeah. Yeah. I think rehab is a great place for, to learn a lot about yourself, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people could do with rehab,
Yeah.
despite whether or not they've got a chronic drug addiction.
And I guess the first step of going to rehab is the fact that you're surrendering.
Yeah.
I need help and I'm going to invest time into getting this help.
Mm.
Not
Yeah.
always open-minded. We've seen
No.
plenty of people that aren't open-minded, but the
Mm.
ones that are stick around and then have success.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
S- So apart from 160 kilo deadlift, what's
Yeah.
on the horizon for you?
Okay, what have I got coming up this year? Apart
Yes.
from my goal to get a 160 kilo deadlift, my team will be going down to down south. Can't remember the name. Southwest, to a little country town where we do True Grit. You probably have it over there somewhere. We've done it. This will be our third year in a row. A bunch of clients, some are ex-clients. We'll go down there. We'll
What is
camp
it?
for the night. Oh, True Grit. It's an obstacle course.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
Awesome.
a 10-kilometer obstacle course. It's got 32 obstacles in there, crawling in mud, crawling under barbed wire, like kind of army military style stuff, swinging from things, hanging, crawling over big walls, jumping over things, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Travel?
start travel. I'm going to Bali in 4 weeks, which is like, it's just kind of a little mini trip.
Yeah.
Yes, what else? I've started running. I've started trying to run some longer distances. I've never really been a runner, so
Yeah.
did a 10K last week. So just trying to implement that, and uh,
Do you
probably another
listen to
photo.
music when you run?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't
Yeah,
do it without it. They're raw
yeah,
dogging it. They're crazy
yeah.
people.
Unless I'm running with somebody else, and we'll like chat
Yes.
and run at the same time.
Mm, amazing. I've got a couple more questions before we wind up.
Mhm.
One is acts of service is um, obviously a really prevalent thing in 12 step.
Yeah,
You've got your community and what you do there in the
yeah,
fitness world. Do you do anything outside of that?
yeah. So I have been back to speak at the rehab that I was in. I've probably been back there maybe 4 or 5 times over the years. I've been back to a couple of different rehabs to talk. I've been into minimum security prison twice to talk, one that
Mm,
I was actually locked up in.
yeah.
I've been sharing my story, I feel like, is my act of service, and I share it as much as I can. I've done four
Mm,
podcasts now, I think. sharing
Yeah.
my story, because most people that come and see me, and I'm open about sharing my story on my social media
Mm,
to people. Anyone ask me, the amount of people over the years that have said, "Oh my God, your story!" Like I have a cousin, a brother, uh, a relative that's been in addiction,
mm,
or that is in addiction. What do I do for them? How do I help them? Or your story really touched me. Like so many people have resonated with my story, and most people, "Well, I can't believe you were an addict. Like you don't look like you would have been an addict." And I share my prison photos side to side with me now,
yeah.
to really prove that anything is possible. But yeah, sharing my story is, I feel, the most powerful act of service that I have and that I can do. And I love to do that.
I think that sharing our stories is so powerful. And as you say, one of the reasons for that is so people know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And, for you, I could imagine that there'd be young women incarcerated that just feel like they're alone and
Mm,
have lost hope. And they
mm,
can see your strong self out there
mm,
and where you are 10 years later, and that can give them hope.
mm,
And that's what this podcast is about. And I
mm.
am sure that that's the message that we're passing on. So
Yeah.
you coming on here today is just part of that. Part of that is acts of
Yeah.
service. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah. No, thank
I've
you for
got one
having me on.
last question for you.
Yeah.
If you could say something to young Chrissoula that was on the farm,
Mm,
lonely and isolated, what would you
mm.
say to her?
You are worthy. You are loved. You will, and you can, and you will do great things. And don't ever believe that you can't do anything. I think
That's
that's what I'd
amazing.
say. Yeah.
Thanks, Chrissoula. That is amazing to leave us with, and I'll look forward to following your story and might see you in Bali.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thank- Have a lovely day.
Thanks, James. You too.
I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. This podcast is an act of service that my guests and I offer to spread a message of hope in recovery. If you could do me a favour and rate the podcast on your preferred platform, share it with a friend, or post it on your socials, it would mean the world to me. You can also reach out directly on Instagram at SlayingSoberPod. I love hearing from you. Your support keeps me inspired to bring you more stories of strength, sobriety, and hope. Have a great day.